Happy birthday, happy birthday. That's not his. I thought it was. Oh well, anyways, happy birthday to you, cameraman. Hello everybody, Sparkster1701 here. We're taking a look at another Kingdom release toy. One that, yes, well it is today my birthday. I turned 42 today. This one was received, as many of you probably saw in a previous video, just a short while back. This is the Kingdom release of Ultra Magnus. Now, while for the most part it is basically a retool of the Siege toy, and we will show the Siege toy here next to it in just a moment, there is enough differences about the two that it does warrant its own review, unlike many of the others that have been straight reissues. Ultra Magnus here, like his Siege version, was a leader class toy, so it will retail in the stores for around the $50 price point here in the States. And of course, for many of us that grew up in the old era, here is the Generation 1 version of Ultra Magnus. This one, of course, is the later issued Ultra Magnus toy. There was an earlier one that had some more paint details and rubber tires on him, but this one is basically the one I have, and is the original one from my childhood. The current Kingdom one, however, goes more along the lines of being more accurate to the animated series version of the character, which was done up in this darker blue color, rather than the almost light blue or teal color, well, not quite teal, but this lighter blue color that the original toy was done in. Let's move him out of the way here. Thankfully he rolls pretty easily. And then now we'll bring in the Siege version of Ultra Magnus, so you can kind of get a look at some of the similarities and differences. Now, of course, the Siege one does end up having more paint wear on it due to it looking battle damaged. But there are some other slight differences. Bring them both a little closer to the camera here. As you can see, the shoulder pieces are done differently. There's the added paint detail on the top of the newer one, but they've also eliminated some of the details. The head sculpt is certainly different, as this one, of course, would be more accurate to how he looked on the Netflix series, whereas this one over here, the Kingdom one, is more accurate to the Generation 1 cartoon. Other than that, the upper body pieces on the two of them are the same. The wrist piece, the wrist armor, forearm armor rather, it is the same pieces, but the Kingdom one does not have any paint wear on it. The leg armor does have some differences, namely in the fact that there is some more paint applications here on the Siege version, whereas there's somewhat less here on the Kingdom version. Plus, of course, some of it was left in the blue on the Siege version, and then it's just made white here on the Kingdom release. And, of course, also, the Siege version came with these two large black guns. The Kingdom version does not have those guns. Now, there is also a slight problem with my Kingdom one. I will not swear this is the same on every other Kingdom toy of Ultra Magnus. If any of you have this toy and you have this similar problem as well, please shout out in the comments on here, but notice the missile launchers. Mine are both the same orientation. They both match this one here that goes on the right shoulder. Whereas you can see on the Siege one, they were done up differently so that they could both be positioned at the same angles. Whereas you can see, since mine is the exact same, I'll even unplug it here and show it to you side by side here, that mine are exactly alike. If any of you out there have an Ultra Magnus and yours matches this, or even if it doesn't, give me a shout in the comments. I'd like to know if this was a screw-up on Hasbro's part, or is that how it is? Normally I'd probably consider going out and buying it, but with this being a $50 toy, that's a little expensive to buy a new one just for the part. But if I'm right, I think it's a screw-up, and somewhere out there, there's an Ultra Magnus that has two left rocket launchers. But as you can also see, it's not like I can swap the rocket launchers, because as you can see there, the launchers are not exactly the same mold. So, quite a bit of a conundrum. Okay, let's get started by taking a look at Ultra Magnus's articulation here. The head can be turned from left to right, and it does look up and down. He does also have a clear blue spot on the back of the head, so that way when held to the light, his eyes will shine blue. His arms can be raised out with the armor up to there, and he does fully rotate at the shoulder. You can bend his arms at the elbow 90 degrees, and he does have a swivel at the bicep, so he does have G.I. Joe battle grip. You can also turn his hands at the wrist. He does have limited twisting ability, but it's not going to work very well due to the armor on the hips. His legs can spread apart into almost full splits, again due to the armor. The legs can be raised up at the hip almost 90 degrees, and he can bend at the knee 90 degrees. So Ultra Magnus does have a lot of articulation going for him. Let's begin to take a look at his loose parts now, starting with his rifle. This is about the only piece that is exactly the same as it is on the Siege toy. The paint may be a slightly different shaded color. Well, we'll reach over here and grab the Siege one here, and yeah, the Siege one is indeed a different color. It is in a brighter silver paint, whereas the Kingdom release is in a darker shade of gray. So do bear that in mind if you're going to go look for one loose. And then, of course, there are the rocket launchers. And this is the only one I got. There should be one, I would think, that faces the opposite direction. Again, sound off in the comments if you got one that matches mine or is different from mine. I'd love to hear what many of you have for your Kingdom Ultra Magnus. Then we get that out of the way, get the other one off, and watch it bounce on the floor. Then, of course, we have his shoulder armor. They're not exactly the same. The right shoulder is all flat on the side that faces the front. whereas the one for the left shoulder does have a molded-in vent on it, and it does have one of the small posts for an energy spark to be attached to it. Then, of course, we have the wrist armor. This is the one for the left hand. We say that specifically because on the inside there is a post, and that is meant to go into the hole on his forearm. And, of course, we'll get the right one off. And there you can see the right one. And next, of course, we have the torso armor. Once we can get it to pop free, there we go. This is the armor for the body, which, of course, features the robot's head. And then, of course, we have left and right leg armor. Again, as we said, it's got more white paint on the front, but also has a lot less paint detail, since the Siege one has a silver outline around this red grating, and there is a little red paint inside the silver area for the kneecap. And then that just leaves you with the robot's body. Now, to get it transformed into the small robot, first thing we'll need to do is we come down here onto the feet. We're going to fold out the rear portion of the feet so that he'll stand a little easier. We come here to the hip piece. We pop this section down, rotate it, and then fold it back up. And we're going to come here, we pop his shoulders free and fold them back for a moment so that we can lower the cab out enough to rotate out the head, and then plug it back in, then reattach the shoulders. Then we come around here to his backside, and we are going to adjust the body a bit so that we can slide the bumper up. Come on, wiggle, wiggle. Bumper should slide up here. And lock into position. The only problem is I think we've locked it into the lower position, because it ain't budging worth anything. Anyway, we ain't going to fight with it. We don't got time to fight. But at any rate, we'll add in the gun. And there you have Ultra Magnus in his smaller robot form. And yes, it does look quite different from the Siege version. But of course, this one is meant to represent the original toy's small robot form, but it more resembles the original version released in 1986, as it has more of the paint applications on it. Like especially noticeably the blue color around the mouth plate. Because later versions, like the one I have, do not feature paint on that spot. So, quite a considerable difference. Okay, to transform Ultra Magnus fully, let's get the gun out of his hand. Of course, the first thing we would do would be get this down, but it's already down because we couldn't get it unstuck for some reason. Maybe I meant to slide him forward so that he would. Yep, that's how we were supposed to have done it. So, there, that's how he looks correct. But of course, now, to transform him, we're going to fold these back feet pieces in. Going to slide the bumper back down. Come on, don't do this to me. First we got to slide him out so that the bumper will slide down. We're going to detach the shoulders a bit so we can come around here and pop down the chest cavity, fold the head in, and then close it back up. Don't move on us yet. Then we finish by getting the arms to fully rotate around to the back. You got to get them up and above parts of the bumper due to the way it's set up. Trying to clear the bumper is the tough part. There we go. May have one. We get the other one. Of course, the shoulders should also connect in. I think we're going to try this, rotate it around, and slide it up so it lines up. Then we can get the arms in without any difficulties. And of course, once you got the arms in like that, we want to rotate the fists so that the hands are pointing downwards. Then we come down here to his legs. There's a post and a hole right down above the ankles where he should lock in like that. And then you bring it up. Now, they want you to bring the body up full because there's a couple of posts on his hip where they should connect. And then there you have the truck mode. Nice rendition here. This way you can see how it looks next to the Generation 1 version. Of course, we'll scoot that out of the way because we got to go the full look. We need the trailer. To build the trailer, we start by taking the shoulder pieces. There's a gray section on the back side of them that you will fold out like so. And then they will connect together via a little T-bar. So they're like that. You'll take the gray pieces and connect them in to this bar in between his legs. Like that. We will take the torso armor. We're going to open it all the way up. Like that. The wrist armor, you're going to find the holes on the one side, and then you will plug it in behind the robot's head. Then that gets this section ready. We just need to turn it upside down for our purposes. So the next thing we get is the leg armor. We'll unattach it from the back side of it and then fold it all out. Now we're going to use this one here. That was the right leg. We'll take the chest armor. The one tab connects in inside the leg. The central one should hang loose here in the middle, partially. We'll fold the armor to the side, so that way we can line up a grabber post and a regular post with some spots on the armor to hold it in place. that'll keep it steady for us to attach the other side. And then just fold those two areas again into place. Leave this section open for a moment. Because then, right here in the back, there's large holes there just above where the wheels are. And that's where these posts are going to connect. Just gently shove it in there good. Then we should rest the red armor onto the top of the truck. Then you can fold in the remaining panels and try to snap them into place if the toy will cooperate with you. That's the problem, the connection's not exactly a smooth one, so you may have to fight with it a bit. There we go, we got that in. The armor just doesn't snap in as easily as it did on the Siege toy. But then once that's in, once the armor's on, you just mount the gun into the hole in the back. And then you can attach the missile launchers. Like so. And there is Ultra Magnus in his car carrier mode. Done up somewhat to resemble an Earth version of the Siege version. So we'll get them here side by side so you can take a look at them together. And as you can see, mainly the biggest difference is just due to the fact of how the truck looks. Nothing really more than that. We'll get that out of the way, and we will wheel in here the Generation 1 version, which was done up as a dedicated car carrier. In fact, you could get about 3 or 4 Autobot cars to ride on this trailer. Since this trailer here is nothing more than thin plastic, I certainly wouldn't recommend trying to load him up with any vehicles. So now we get down to my final thoughts. What do I think of this version of Ultra Magnus? This one has me on the fence, folks. It's clear and apparent, even early on in the promo stills, that it was going to be a retooling of the Siege version. So, in a sense, Hasbro is basically getting us to buy a similar version of a toy that was already made 2 years ago. However, if you are more of a fan of the Generation 1 appearance, this one might appeal to you a little bit more, since it is somewhat more accurate to the Generation 1 version than what the Siege version was. However, if you already have the Siege one in your collection, getting this one may not be worth your money. A lot of it depends on how you feel the toy should look. If you want one that's more accurate to the cartoon and its original toy, then the Kingdom version is the one you want to go get. If, however, you already have the Siege version and you're not impressed by what this one does, don't be ashamed of that, because in a lot of ways, I'm kind of the same way. At any rate, that concludes my review of the Kingdom version of Ultra Magnus. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you liked the video, please leave me a thumbs up here on YouTube. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button and join our ranks. Make sure you ring the bell so you'll be notified when we post new content. We also ask that you share this video with your fellow friends and fellow collectors. That's what helps this channel grow. And also share your thoughts about Ultra Magnus in the comments down below. This is Sparkster1701 saying we still got a couple of more guys to review, so we aren't done yet, but I'll catch y'all later.